she's just so smart. She's so organized. She's so efficient. I don't know if I mentioned, but she's German. She's, born in Germany. She's a triathlete, so she just like had all these great quips that I was just thinking to myself, this is comedy gold. And one of them, I feel like I should make a t-shirt and give it to her as a gift. When I held up the banner, the 50th birthday banner with the unicorn, like her face, I could tell she was trying to control it, but it was like sour-ish, right? It was like, it wasn't quite, what are you, stupid? But it was a little bit, what are you, stupid? And, and then I mentioned, oh my gosh, and I found a notebook at the bottom of my backpack that I hadn't seen and I had carried accidentally, And so she gives me this funny look when I pulled up the banner and I was like, what? It's light. And then I mentioned the book and she kind of has the same face. And I'm like, what? It's light. And she's like, light plus light plus light equals heavy.
I love Germans.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alegre.
I'm Natasha. And together we are Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, or BYWD.
And what follows is the chit-chat only portion of our podcast number 70. If you want to hear the full podcast, listen for number 70. But this is the chit-chat only version, and we are going to be talking about my backpacking trip, starting now. I already know what my chit-chat is going to be because, as I had mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it last week on our podcast or if I mentioned it last week when we did our monthly course correct with our course alumni. But I had mentioned that I had a big thing happening at the end of this month, and I didn't want to say what it was, but I knew it was going to be something that I consider an accomplishment. And why am I mentioning that I consider an accomplishment? Because in our monthly course correct that we do every month with our alumni, there is a space to write down things that you've done this month, accomplishments you've had, big and small. Like, we would absolutely consider taking your kiddo and they getting a cavity-free check as an accomplishment, mom or dad, because who's the one teaching them to brush and reminding them to brush? It's you.
Yep.
And so the accomplishment this month is something that has been on my bucket list for a long time because I was obsessed with the movie The Parent Trap when I was growing up. The original one, the one with Hayley Mills.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Obsessed. I watched it so many times, and there were two parts of the movie that I really wanted to experience. And one was summer camp. And the other one was a backpacking trip. And so I never was sent to summer camp. And I'm not quite sure why. I need to ask my mom this because I'm definitely going to work this into my comedy, because she never sent me to summer camp as in like archery, horseback riding, kayaking. She always sent me to like academic camps, like typing camp and note-taking camp. And for real, there was a note-taking camp.
What? So I guess, listen, girl, you got skills. I've never seen anybody type faster than Alegre in real life. Like, when she types, you think that it's like somebody just pretending on a keyboard. Like, it's so fast. I feel like such a sloth when I type. Like, when we were co-work together, and she's just like, and I'm just like, so typing camp worked. Also,
it did.
I mean, like, you're a really good note taker. You're really good organized about your notes and stuff. So it worked.
It worked.
First of all, I didn't even know that was existed. So that's number one. I'm learning a lot today already that these things exist.
Yes. And for anyone who's wondering,
talk to text camp, I'm sure.
Right. Well, and for those who are wondering, I type like around 170 something words per minute.
Guys,
so
100 and I mean, like, seriously, that is crazy insane.
I do think that the 10 years of piano helped the dexterity too. So by the time I got to typing camp, I had already been keyboarding in some way for a long time.
Yeah.
So, strong fingers.
Sure.
And so anyway, so for whatever reason, my parents refused to send me to summer camp. I only got to go to these academic ones. And this year, Natasha and our kiddos did this program that culminated with a summer camp experience that was even located at the place where they shot the remake of The Parent Trap. So it was like
wild.
Woo!
Yeah, my kids and I just watched it like a month or so ago because I was like, I just want to see. And you can, I mean, it's legit. It's like literally the camp they were in. They did the thing that we saw the most was the main building,
Main
you know,
room.
like the like that general purpose room.
Multi-purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fun though. It was fun to see it, but it wasn't featured that much. But it was definitely where we went to summer camp, where we went to that camp back in May. It's definitely that spot for sure.
So it definitely fulfilled something in my 10-year-old self to have that summer camp experience. Yeah, it was so cool. And for those of you who don't know, this year is my 50th birthday year. So a friend of mine had made this big banner for me that says 50th birthday Alegre and has a unicorn on it. And
so fun.
And it's super cute, but the environmentalist in me was like, oh my God, single-use banner. I can't take it. So to make myself feel less guilty about this banner, I've been taking it with me everywhere. So I took it up to the summer camp that Natasha and I went to, and I took a picture. And this weekend, I got to go backpacking, and I brought the banner as well.
As you should, because this is really important. Like, she's like, I don't need a sleeping bag, but bring my banner.
I need my unicorn banner. Yeah.
Luckily, the banner is light. It was very light, right? It didn't take. It's not very heavy.
It was light, but so one of the reasons we went backpacking this weekend was because we were invited by a family who backpacks all the time. They backpack 3 times a year. The parents have been backpacking as adults for decades, and they invited us. And I said, oh, what better way to learn than to have my hand held by these people who have backpacked for decades.
100%.
And
yeah.
Thank God, because it is such a learning curve. Like the amount of things you have to think about. I mean, think about getting ready to leave the house for a regular trip. Like there's all the stuff you have to do in your house, but also now you have this limited space and you have to pack food and water filtration and clothing and first aid and all these things, right? And then like the food, you can't just pack any food. You want to pack the lightest food possible. So you have to dehydrate everything. And so I actually had to do some experimentation. I bought some chili from Trader Joe's, the canned chili. I do have a really old dehydrator that belonged to my mom. So it's probably 30 years old, 40 years old. And so I dehydrated some chili, and I dehydrated it for 8 hours, and it looked dry. And the test is you put it into a plastic bag and you see if it gets moldy. That's how you know you've dehydrated it enough or not.
Right.
Mine got moldy. And so I asked my friend, and she said, every dehydrator is different. If you have an old one, it might take longer. She said, I know my chili is done when it cracks like a cracker. And so that was my test. And so every couple hours I would like bend it. And I was surprised at how pliable 10-hour dehydrated chili is. It actually took 2 days.
Holy moly.
2 days of dehydrating to get it to the cracker consistency all the way around. Okay.
Wow.
So there's a lot. And then we didn't own all the gear. We had about 2/3 of the gear because of my earthquake preparedness kits. But we didn't have some things. So we had to buy some things. And there's this trade-off between money and weight when it comes to backpacking.
Right. Yes.
So do you want to spend $500 on the 4-pound tent, or do you want to spend $100 on the 7-pound tent? And of course, we're like, well, we don't know if we're ever going to do this again. So we're buying the $100 tent.
Right.
And then there are the things you don't think about. Like we have a little cook set that has a fold-up knife, fork, spoon, and spork. We could have just taken the spork.
Right.
We never used the frying pan. So anyway, all that to say is that our backpack was overweight. Our backpacks were overweight by 10 to 20 pounds.
Each?
Each.
Yeah, that's a lot when you're hiking. Holy crap. Yeah, for hiking for 3 days or 4 days. How long would you guys have gone for 3 days?
So it was 3 nights, 4 days, right? And just so everyone knows, I regularly walk my dog and hike the mountains with weights. I walk with about 15 pounds of weight when I'm doing a hike, and I'll walk with it. I vary it from day to day, but I'll walk with as much as 40 pounds of weights with my dog in the flats. Okay. So it's not like I haven't been training for this, but when someone Okay. And, there's just such a huge learning curve for getting ready for a backpacking trip that in all of the videos I watched, in all the articles I watched, because I watched multiple videos about how to pack a backpack, no one ever mentioned what the upper limit of the weight of the pack should be.
Okay.
And they recommend 20%. So at 20%, I should have had a pack around 30 pounds. Okay. And my pack was probably 50. But if you hear about people in the military taking 60 to 70 pound packs. Those people, if they're women, they weigh a max of 200 pounds. So they're carrying more. So I think the 20% weight is for people who are not training actively with a pack, or, just maybe backpacking once a year. And so not in the shape. So I don't necessarily think my pack was that crazy heavy, given the fact that I do train with weight regularly.
Yeah.
However, when you take into account the fact that you're walking for 3 miles at an almost continuous 30 to 50 degree grade.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Like no real breaks, like when you hike, when you do your daily hike, there's usually some flats, right? It kind of levels out, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And then of course, on your way back down, you're going down, right? But when you're hiking all day, there's not really any down until you're on your way back, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah. So that day you don't have the break of up and down. It's all up.
We were already at elevation just at the trailhead because we were in Sequoia Park, right? So we're already at a certain elevation we're not used to.
Right.
So
yeah,
all
so it's already
things,
that the elevation thing is legit. We live at sea level, so like anytime we go to elevation, it's kind of like, oh boy, Yeah.
My heart rate at the campsite never got below 85 beats per minute. Just sitting,
just living there.
Yeah,
holy
just
moly.
Being there. And like I'm regularly around 57 to 62 at rest at sea level. So yeah, it was like my foot was like, what the hell are you doing? Sit down and breathe, woman.
I need a break.
Yeah, but it was all worth it. We get there, it was all worth it. It was
sounds so
the
fun.
Location was absolutely stunning, and it was really, I just got such great comedy out of it because my friend, she's just she's so smart, she's so organized, she's so efficient. I don't know if I mentioned, but she's German. She's, born in Germany. She's a triathlete, so she just like had all these great quips that I was just thinking to myself, this is comedy gold. And one of them, I feel like I should make a t-shirt and give it to her as a gift. When I held up the banner, the 50th birthday banner with the unicorn, like her face, I could tell she was trying to control it, but it was like sour-ish, right? It was like, it wasn't quite, what are you, stupid? But it was a little bit, what are you, stupid? And, and then I mentioned, oh my gosh, and I found a notebook at the bottom of my backpack that I hadn't seen and I had carried accidentally, And so she gives me this funny look when I pulled up the banner and I was like, what? It's light. And then I mentioned the book and she kind of has the same face. And I'm like, what? It's light. And she's like, light plus light plus light equals heavy.
I love Germans.
Yeah.
I can just imagine. That's fantastic.
So it was an amazing experience. It was so fabulous. I have so much gratitude for my body because if you know my story, then you know that in my early 30s, I was actually bedridden for 3 months. And so I know that, I was so happy that I could do this hike. And it was an amazing experience. The things
that sounds
you can
fantastic. Do. Yeah, that's awesome. Great. I was wondering. I was super looking forward to hearing about your trip. That's awesome. That's really fantastic. Yeah, backpacking. So it's 3 miles. You said it was 3 miles in, or was there more? Did you go 3 miles a day going in?
Oh well, I mean, this story can get really long because it was a 17-mile loop.
Gotcha.
And the next day, so I barely slept that first night. I only got 3.5 hours sleep because every sleep cycle, so every 90 minutes, you're going through a sleep cycle and you always wake up, but you don't usually remember it because usually you fall right back to sleep. However, every 90 minutes, I'd wake up with a cramp that was keeping me awake. And then eventually my exhaustion would overwhelm the pain and I'd fall back asleep. And then 90 minutes later, another cramp. And then, so I only got 3.5 hours sleep that night. And so I was probably a little dehydrated, as well as just like massive lactic acid buildup in my body.
Yeah.
And maybe a little undernourished as well. And that morning, as we're packing, I'm sitting on the tent and my thigh is cramping. My hands and thumbs are cramping as I try to stuff things. And I turned to my husband and I said, I think we should stay here. I think my body just needs to like come back to balance.
Yeah.
I need to like fuel up and hydrate like crazy and just rest. And so we told them, hey, we're just going to hang out here. You know, maybe we'll meet you up because they were going to go the long way, and I said, maybe if we stay here a night and then we can go back the short way and meet you somewhere in the middle sort of thing. But I also said to them, it all depends on how I feel. Like, I don't think I should hike with any cramps happening in my body.
Yeah.
Especially uphill.
Worse, right? Yeah.
So I said, I felt confident we could get back to our car because it was almost all downhill. And, you know, it had been 3 hours up. So it was probably going to be 2 or less down. And I said, you know, we'll see. And we decided that given that it was a holiday weekend, given how exhausted we were, given that we had 2 hours out of the park, 5 hours back home drive ahead of us after whatever hike we do, we're like, let's just cut it short. So we ended up only staying 2 nights, but it was a wonderful experience. We're already looking forward to planning another one.
That sounds so fun.
Maybe a little closer to home.
Yeah, because that's a long trek just to get there, right?
Just to get there.
Yeah. So do you have a 7-hour car ride and then start hiking?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes a 7-hour car ride, I'm like, whoo, exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm ready to take a nap.
And you're hiking at the hottest part of the day, right? That 2 o'clock time. And then the other thing too was it was just me and my husband carrying stuff, but our dog was accompanying us.
Oh, gotcha.
Our child ended up not coming for health reasons. She ended up staying behind. Thank God she did, because I don't think she would have enjoyed it. But the family we were with, you don't think about how much. So there were 5 of them, right? And their 3 kids are younger than our kids. But if each kid is carrying 5 pounds of something, you're like, oh, that could really disperse the weight.
For sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I think if our child had come, in some ways it would have been easier because she's like almost a full-grown adult and could have carried something. But yeah,
you didn't strap
anything
we're
looking
on the
forward
dog?
To it. Yes, our dog carried her own food. She has little saddlebags.
Fantastic, as it should be.
As it should be. Everyone commented on it. She was literally the only dog on the trail with a backpack. Every person who passed us with a dog was like, I need to get one of those. And
let them carry their own food for real, right? Food's heavy, right? So and
not as heavy as water.
Right. No, water's super heavy. Yeah.
2.2 pounds per liter. I now know.
Yeah, 2.2 pounds per liter. Wow. Yeah. I've always
I drank 2 liters on the way up.
Yeah.
But I only drank 3/4 of a liter on the way down. So, but yeah, lots of fun first. I got to use a camp stove for the first time. I got to drink water from a lake for the first time. It was filtered.
Yeah.
So, that was interesting. Like, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
drinking lake water.
Yay.
I will take all of the blessings I can take from all places.
Yeah, you bless that water like nice and clean and crystallized.
Yes. And, first time having to dig a hole for, using the bathroom.
You didn't have to carry it out. That's nice.
No, you don't have to carry it out, but there are lots of rules. Like you have to be 100 feet
from the
trail or the campsite. You need to be downhill from the lake. If there are any creeks, you need to be 100 feet away from the creeks, and there are lots of dry creeks.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's really own hike. Just going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then you have to dig a hole 8 inches deep, which, hey, that's the really great thing about having a dog with you. The minute you start digging, she was like,
oh no way.
Dig. Woohoo. Yeah. She was like, dig.
That's great.
So, our dog was definitely earning her keep.
I was going to say, she must have loved it. She must have had a blast.
She had a blast, and
that dog has so much energy. She probably was like, come on, let's go, Yeah.
Well, she's so friendly, and so people were just having so much fun meeting her, and
that's so fun.
It was great.
So great.
Super fun. And oh my gosh, now we're 20 minutes in, so I feel like we should get to our topic, but I want to hear what's going on with you.
Had the opposite weekend. I had a friend because she's leaving town, and my birthday's coming up soon, and so she's like, I want to take you out for your birthday. So she's gifted me with a massage, and she and I moved to Los Angeles together 20 something years ago.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of like we just had like a kind of, and she's leaving to go back to where we started back in Boston. And so we kind of did like a little nostalgia tour of our old haunts and stuff. I mean, just driving by. We didn't like go into any of these clubs. And then she took me out to dinner. We just had a really great time. It was so nice to hang out with her and just have like a whole evening. A lot of times when we've hung out, I'm like, oh, I got to get back and do something with the kids. And it was just like, it was, the kids are at that age and my husband's at that age where it's kind of like, bye guys. I said to my husband, I was like,
right,
maybe I'll see you in the morning. I don't really know. Bye. We just had a really lovely time, and we went apple picking on Labor Day. That's kind of become a family tradition. It's stupid hot in Southern California to go apple picking this early, but because that's the case, it's not this. The nearest apple picking is like an hour and a half away, right? And it's usually swamped later in the fall. So when we go on Labor Day, it was hot. We were sweating while we were picking apples, but I was like, we are going to have a fall experience, because being from back east, and spending a lot of time in New England, like this time of year is like, oh, apple picking and apple cider donuts and apple cider and all that stuff. So I was like, we are going to have fall if it kills us. And so it's been, we actually have a lot of fun. It's really, it's very quaint and cute where we go, and we had a lovely time. And that was our weekend, and I'm just getting ready for next week. Starting Wednesday, I go on a silent 10-day meditation retreat. And most people are telling me that I'm crazy or that they could never do it, but you'd be surprised you could do it out there.
I'm so excited for you. So
yeah,
anyone who's watching or listening, Natasha won't be with us the next 2 weeks, but I do have topics planned out. I thought that next week, since I'm going to be by myself, I'm going to do my entire skincare as self-care routine.
I'm going to watch that when I come back
on camera. And I can talk you through all the components, why I do it, and why it's self-care. So that's what I'm going to do next week. And then the week after, I'm going to talk about emergency preparedness, since it's been fresh on my mind with all the stuff that I packed in my backpack. So those going to be the topics the next 2 weeks. Join me for that.
I can't wait to watch both of those when I get back. I'm serious, because
appointment viewing.
I've heard about your skincare piecemeal throughout the years, but it'd be nice to see the whole routine. It's like be a little fly on the wall in your bedroom.
The whole shebang, yeah. So I'm just gonna have to bring everything right here and do it here.
That's fun.
And we'd love to hear your comments. If you're watching the recorded version of this or the podcast version, put your comments wherever you are watching or listening. We will see them. We will respond to them. Dream wild, wild dreamer. Thanks for joining us for the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen.